Welcome to Section 2.8 of the Foreclosure Prevention class, Verifying Debt. Verifying debt is the disclosure. Mainly what we want to do is look at the disclosure of all debt, and that should be done at intake. And then verified before and during the counseling session. So the way the process kind of works is your intake person or your counselor, whoever is the first person to talk to your client, gets their information, and then when they come in, based on the credit report, other documentation they may bring in, you're able to verify that debt. What you're looking for is a total monthly debt obligation and the sum of all recurring debt, the minimum monthly payments. This information is used to calculate your client's debt-to-income ratios. This is part of what lenders use to see if they qualify for different workout options. Something to note, household costs such as utilities, gas, phone, school tuition, child care, stuff like that, not included in the debt-to-income ratios. That's why we use those percentages. The percentages are there to kind of account for all the other stuff. One of the main ways that we verify debt is through the credit reports. There are three major credit bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. The credit companies provide dates accounts were open, dates accounts were closed, what the minimum monthly payments are, what the balances are, the repayment histories for the past 7 years. So if your client's been habitually late, that will be on there. If they've been, if they've been perfectly paying on time up until this hardship, you'll be able to see that on the credit report. While they may contain similar information, it's not a uniform process. So what's on TransUnion may not be on Equifax, and vice versa. They were originally started regionally. So Equifax was more East Coast. I want to say TransUnion was more West Coast. And so oftentimes you may have something on one that was not on the other because of that. They try to share information, but like I said, it's not a uniform process. Credit reports pulled directly by servicers may contain more information than the credit report you see. So that's something to be mindful of. The credit report provides information about a borrower and their borrowing behavior. Creditors pay a fee to receive the credit information from the credit bureaus, as does your agency if you're pulling that for foreclosure purposes. It will also show inquiries made on an account in the past 2 years. Now, the Fair and Accurate Credit Transaction Act allows consumers to receive a free credit report from each credit bureau once a calendar year. And I highly recommend that you actually take advantage of this service yourself. It's good to know what's on your credit report, especially if there are errors. You want to be able to get those corrected before too much time has passed and before you are going to apply for any credit yourself. Alright, so pardon me for that interruption, but we're getting ready to do an activity anyway, so it worked out. Go ahead and go to page 2 on, and then there's an activity regarding the credit report. And this is very, very important because it's good to know what this information is. Pause this recording, and then we'll come back and we'll go over the answers. Okay? All right, hopefully you have gone through the credit report and the activity on page 2. Now let's take a look. The first question is, what is Sharon's and Steve's credit score? Which bureaus are reporting them? Well, if we look on the credit report under applicant, let's see, are we looking under applicant information? We can see that we've got Steve sample, we've got Sharon sample. And then we're going to go down to the section where it says Data Sources Score Information. That's still on the first page of the credit report. We're on 1 of 7 of the credit report. And you'll see where on the left side, after the item number, there's a product score. The first one is Beacon. Beacon is Equifax. And another way to know that is if you skip over, you see factor information and then data source, EFX. Now the APP1 tells you it's the first applicant. So now if we go back up to the applicant information, and let's say Steve sample, let's go all the way to the far right and we see APP1. So we know Steve is our applicant number 1. And Sharon sample is APP2. So now let's go back down to data source score information. So Steve's got a Beacon score, and under the product score you see Beacon 5.0, 536 is his actual Beacon or Equifax score. And then the next one says APP1 as well. That's FICO, but it doesn't give us a score there. Not provided by this repository. And that could be for several reasons. If you don't have credit that's reporting regularly, because creditors have to pay to report, and if he doesn't have any activity, then it may have stopped reporting, and therefore there's no score generated. Or he could have never had anything that reported to Experian. So let's go over to the next page, page 2 of the credit report. Item number 3, that's APP1, the TransUnion, still no score. So Steve's only got 1 score. And in that case, we'll just go with that, the 536. Now the next 3 are Sharon's. It looks like she doesn't have an Equifax or an Experian, but she does have a TransUnion score, which is called an Empirica, and hers is 564. So he's 536, she's 564. And just something to note, Equifax gives you a Beacon score, Experian gives you a FICO score, and TransUnion gives you an Empirica score. Mostly you hear is what's the Beacon score, because that's just a common way of referring to it. But when someone says what's your Beacon, they're looking for the middle of the 3 scores. And so if they had 3 scores, we would go with the middle one. If they only had 2 scores, we would go with the lower of the 2. And in this case, since they only have 1 score, that's what we go with. So the answer is 536 for Steve, 564 for Sharon. Number 2, are there any items listed under public records? Well, let's take a look at the public records section. Where are we going to find that? That is going to be on page 5 of 7 on the credit report. And keep in mind, each credit report's a little different. So you want to get just kind of go through a credit report and see where information is. And some credit reports have the public record at the very beginning. In this one, it's on page 5. So under public records, we do see a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. So the answer would be yes. There's a Chapter 7 bankruptcy under public records. Number 3, how many real estate accounts do the samples have? All right, let's take a look under the real estate section. Now, a quick, easy way to find that is going to be on page 1 of 7. In that middle section where it says Instant Merge Credit Summary, there will be a listing under account type. The first thing you see is real estate, and it's got 2. And it shows a balance and the number of payments, and actually it's showing their current. And if you look over, it looks like they did have 1 30-day late, but they're current right now. So mainly we're looking at 2 real estate accounts. Number 4, what is the status of the Bank of America account? All right, let's go to that. That should be page 3 of 7. Under, let's see, is it 3 of 7? Yes. Under derogatory items, we see Bank of America, and the status is M2. Now that M2, the M lets you know it's a mortgage. The 2 lets you know it's 30 days late. If it was a 1, it would be current. If there was a 3, it would be 60 days late, 4, 90 days late, and so on and so forth. So in this case, they've got a 30-day late here on the Bank of America account. And if you look over to the right where it says historical status, you can see they've had 9 30-day lates and 1 60-day late in the past 7 years. And then at the bottom of that section, it actually gives you the months in which they were delinquent. All right, let's go to the next one. What is the status of the Circuit City account? That's going to be on page 4 of 7 at the bottom where it says credit history accounts under applicant number 1. And if you see, this particular credit report separates joint accounts and then individual accounts. So we see FNANB/Circuit City. And if we look at in the middle of it where we see account type, status, under there is R1. R stands for revolving account, meaning it's like a credit card. You can use it and pay it down and use it and pay it down. It keeps going. And the 1, what is that? Lets us know it's current. Right. So the Circuit City account is current. Now the next question, what is the monthly payment on the auto loan? Well, the auto loan is going to be on page 2 of 7. and it's under applicant number 1, WFS Financial, and it says auto loan right below the name. And this is, let's go back to account type, I-1. It's current, right? And what does I stand for? We've got a revolving account. I is one of those accounts that are like, they're set. They don't revolve. They are like a student loan where you pay, you borrow a certain amount of money and then you pay it down, but you can't continue to borrow on it. So they're not open accounts. They're closed accounts, basically. And when I say closed, I don't mean closed as in closed on the credit report, but I mean closed as in you can't borrow any more money on it. So that's what that I is for. And you'll see those are pretty standard, I, R, and M. Sometimes you'll see an O, which is like an American Express, where you may have an amount and then the full amount is due at the end of the month. So you may see those. All right, let's go on to the next one. How many accounts have derogatory history? I counted 4. I counted 4. How many times were the samples 30-day late on their mortgage? We kind of already went over that, didn't we? Yes, that was 9. Which account might not belong to the samples? What? Might not belong? Well, let's take a look. Why would we think that? Let's see. We've got GMAC was the note I wrote here. And it says at the very top, possible non-applicant account. So that's questionable. So you want to ask your homeowners about that. Now, what recommendations might you make for the samples? Well, I would definitely contact GMAC about the loan if the samples aren't aware of it. What the status on the Circuit City, is it closed? That was a little confusing, right? Because it shows that it's open, but it was open after or before the bankruptcy, so was it included in the bankruptcy? And then we're seeing under additional dates bankruptcy from both 3. So we just need to know what the deal is for that. And then you want to know what accounts were included in the bankruptcy. You just want to get a copy of their bankruptcy filing and know what was included. Okay? So I hope that made sense. Hopefully that helped you out a little bit on how to read the credit report. And if you're still feeling unsure, please take the actual in-person class and we go over it in a little more detail and you can ask more questions. But you can always email your instructor as well and ask any questions you have whatsoever about the credit report. All right, let's move on. That's the end of section 2.8. Okay, we're done.